We're back. Hello, everyone. I've got a slight problem this evening. Hello, it's J Cattrell. You can call me Jason. Most people do. So it's Jason here again. I'm about to read you chapter 4 of The Bucket, which I am told I have to tell you is available on Amazon and from most independent bookstores. They just have to order it. And also, my website is www.djcattrellauthor.com. And there's stuff I do about school visits and newsletters and all sorts of other stuff on there. So feel free to have a look at that. So we're about to get into chapter 4. Great. I've got one last thing I've got to do before I get into chapter 4, and that's to find a home for this. This is Lola. Lola is my deaf cat. She's shy, clearly. She's shy, but no. She always likes. She's like addicted to me. It's a strange thing. I rescued her from a stable about 11 years ago, and she's stuck herself to me ever since. And it's very tricky to do anything with a cat attached to you. So wherever I am, she's normally sat there or not too far away, aren't you? No? Yes, you are. Oh, that nose. That nose. That nose. So I'm just going to put her in the other room, and then maybe we can crack on. Hang on a sec. Back in a moment. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you, folks. And then I suppose I better introduce you to this little member of the family here, Holly. This is our dog Holly. She's a rescue. She's half collie and half husky, and she's also very sweet and likes to sit next to me at any given opportunity. I don't know why that is. Animal magnetism, who can tell? But that's not what you're here for. You're here for the next installment. Hey. Okay, so we know that Robin and Rachel have gone to the other world, the other place. In Celtic mythology, they call the other world, where all the gremlins and monsters and strange creatures, the other place, they call it the other place. That's where they come from, the other place. And that's where they have gone, to the other place. So, here they are, crossing a meadow in an alien type world. Who can tell what's going to happen next? Let's find out. Brian eventually led them to the edge of the wood. They found themselves looking out over an expanse of green meadows and, in the distance, mist-covered hills. Whilst they had walked, Rachel had learned a great deal from Brian about where they were. 5,000 years ago, unicorns, dragons, and many other supposedly mythical animals had lived in our world, but as man grew cleverer, it was obvious that they could no longer share the same world. Man began hunting unicorns and slaying dragons. Not all men, to be fair, but some, and they were enough. The most intelligent and magical species of that time, and still are across many worlds, the griffins. The griffins brought the unicorns and dragons and other creatures here through the portals to this world in order to save them from the threat of humans in the other world. The griffins had brought other creatures from other worlds here too, in order to save them from extinction or worse in their worlds. That's what griffins do. They keep a balance. Since that time, the black dragons have wanted to return to the human world to take revenge on the humans whom they blamed for their exile. Rachel broke the comfortable silence they had fallen into as they had walked slowly into the edge of the meadow. She had been thinking, Brian stopped Again, she heard his warm and comfortable voice in her mind. You are wondering why your parents never told you about your sister. Rachel looked into his blue eyes. Not really. I think I figured that one out. They didn't tell me because they thought I would look for her and I would have been too young. And anyway, I don't think I would have believed them. I think I had to see this place for myself. Robin was bored. His arms hurt and he was a bit hungry. You still got that apple, Rachel? Rachel bridled at the interruption. No, I gave it to the unicorn. Keep up, will you? Bit of a crybaby and a bit thick, she thought to herself. No, I mean the other one. The one in your pocket. Rachel suddenly remembered that her mother had given her another apple. A dark thought developed in her mind. How do you know that I have an apple in my pocket, Robin? Robin shrugged. Because it's been sticking out of your pocket for the last half a mile, he said. Rachel blushed. Oh, and she said, embarrassed at her own sudden distrust of him. Have you finished talking to the horse yet? Can we go find somewhere normal now? Rachel became irritated again. Look, we're in a different place than home right now, and if you shut up and wait, I might find out how to get us all back there, including my sister and your dad. Okay? Robin sighed. Oh, well, that horse that I don't want an adventure. I just want to go and find my dad and go home. Tell him that. My feet hurt and I need a wee. Brian disturbed the now oddly delicate moment. Please tell your friend not to call me a horse. Unicorns have evolved far beyond horses. How would he like it if I called him Monkey Boy? Rachel laughed not much, I suppose. Once again, Robin screamed, but this sound was different. This sound, his voice resonated terror. Rachel and Brian turned to see the spiky black dragon speeding towards them through the air. It was huge. The trolls dropped Robin and rushed to stand in front of Brian. Brian screamed into her mind, Down! The dragons want the portal you carry. Rachel dropped to the ground and shouted at Robin, Down! But it was too late. The dragon dropped out of the sky with his huge talons outstretched and swept Robin up, digging those talons deeply into his shoulders. They were the same talons she had seen coming out of the bucket all those years ago. The same terror she had felt then returned to her heart. It began to fly off when Brian leapt from the ground in a mighty effort, seeming to gallop on air, and speared the dragon with its scaly black belly with his alicorn. The dragon turned, whelped, and dropped its prey. Robin hit the ground with an audible thud. Brian landed on the ground at the same time as Robin did and spun round to face the dragon again. One of the trolls picked up a very large rock and hurled it straight at the dragon. It smacked the now screaming beast directly between the eyes. For a moment it began to fall, stunned from the blow. But when it hit the ground, it sprang up immediately and began to fly away, its huge black wings casting a shadow over Rachel as it went. Rob, I'm going to give you a picture on that one. This is May Lee's art. Amazing, isn't it? Sorry for the interruption. Let's crack on. Robin lay on the ground as still as death itself. The trolls both began throwing huge rocks after the dragon, but it was quick and nimble, even wounded as it was, and managed to avoid being hit by most of the missiles. Rachel rushed over to Robin's seemingly lifeless body. He looked so vulnerable lying there on the ground. Help him, she said in a pleading voice to Brian. Brian walked over to them and dropped his nose to Robin's face. Please, Brian, help him. I know he's an idiot, but please help him. Rachel had never seen a horse kneel before, let alone a unicorn, but that is exactly what Brian did. And then he blew a green mist through his nose that covered Robin's face. Nothing happened. Brian breathed over Robin again, Still nothing happened, but Rachel accidentally breathed in the green breath of the unicorn, and it made her lungs tingle. They waited, watching the blood ooze from the wounds inflicted by the dragon. Still nothing happened. "I'm sorry, Rachel. I have nothing left," said Brian, dropping to the ground, rolling on his side and breathing heavily. The two trolls shuffled to Brian and knelt down, stroking him furiously. Rachel dropped to the ground as well. "He's gone," she said, not believing what she was saying. "It's all my fault." Tears welled up in her eyes and began to fall on Robin's face. Nothing happened for a few moments. And then Robin sucked in air like he had never breathed before. He rolled over and sat up and coughed. "Ow! Ah!" His eyes shone bright blue. He put his hand to his shoulder. "Oh, that hurts. I feel different. Oh, why do I feel different?" Rachel was utterly relieved and flung her arms around him. Robin was very surprised by this. "I thought you didn't like me." Rachel let go of him. Then she hit him hard on the arm. "I don't. You're horrible." "Ow! Again," said Robin, feeling very confused. "Your eyes." Rachel could not believe what she was seeing. "They're shining blue." Robin looked at her oddly. "Well, so are yours." "They're shining blue." Rachel laughed a little nervously. "They are the same colour as Brian's," she said. This brief explanation did not help Robin to understand anything. "What happened? Why is your horse lying down? And who called him Brian?" Rachel turned to Brian and the two trolls, who were still stroking him. Robin felt a deep, warm voice in his head that was not his own. "I'm a unicorn, monkey boy, and I just saved your life. Say thank you." Robin was in shock. Thank you," he said. Brian's breathing had slowed somewhat. "I need a rest, a long rest. You will have to cross the meadows by yourself. Your sister and your father wait for you on the other side of it. The creek may be a problem unless you find the jazz band." Rachel, chapter 5, by the way. Rachel leapt over to Brian, but the trolls put their hands up, and she felt like she had just hit a solid wall. This was the first time she had heard them speak, and it sounded like a rock grinding against rock, and it felt solid. "Stay back," they said, speaking together at the same time. It was like they were one voice split into two people. In Rachel's head, she heard Brian's reassuring voice again. "It's okay, Rachel. They are healing me. Giving my life force away requires a little recovery time." Rachel's mind raced, not for the first time. "Will you die?" Brian evaded the question. "I must tell you that there are creatures and plants in the meadow from many worlds that are dangerous to humans. They don't mean to be. They are just trying to live. You are strangers here. You may not be welcome everywhere. I'm so tired now. I must sleep soon." The trolls continued to stroke the unicorn. "So that's what he sounds like." Robin stood next to Rachel. "Thank you, Brian," he said. "Ha! I really thank you. And I'm really sorry." Brian smiled into both of their minds. "You must go. I wanted to take you, Sarah, but you must find her on your own. There is not much time before the portal closes. You will all be trapped here for another 8 years. Your sister needs that portal to return to your world." Brian's voice in her mind weakened. "I feel I've lived a long time. I need to rest now. Go on, children. Skedaddle. I'm so very tired." Brian's sleepy voice faded from their minds. Rachel took a step backwards. "Oh, Brian." As she cried, tears rolled down her face, dropping to the leafy ground beneath her. Robin stepped over to Rachel and put his arm around her and turned her away. "I think we'd better go. He said we don't have much time. Rachel turned back to say goodbye to the silent unicorn who had become her best friend so quickly, but he and the trolls were gone, just not there. Her sadness could have filled the bucket that she still had strapped to her belt. They walked slowly from the edge of the woods and looked out over the meadow. Oh, which way do you think, Rachel? Rachel could see a wisp of smoke way off in the distance. I suppose we should head to that, she said, feeling utterly miserable. The meadow seemed quiet enough. Rachel thought about all that had happened, trying to understand it. They had to find her sister and Robin's father and give them the portal in order to get home. She had a sister? How long has she been here? What was she like? She had a sister? She thought that she was beginning to like that idea. I have a sister, she thought. She thought that she was an only child, but no, she had a sister. It gave her a warm feeling inside. I wonder what she's like. Robin had followed her footsteps into the meadow. I'm hungry, he said. Rachel knew where this was leading. No, we might need it later. Robin continued. Just one bite. Rachel ignored him. No. Maybe I could just lick the apple. Rachel rolled her eyes. No. Maybe it's just a sniff of it then? Rachel had enough. She stopped and turned and looked at him straight in the face and said, Robin McCracker, you are 13 years old and I am 10. You need to grow up and look around yourself. If we are going to get across these meadows to find your father and a sister that I never knew I had, then we are going to have to help each other and rely on each other. Am I making myself clear? Robin looked hurt by this. Of course. I'll help. I'll even walk in front, if you like, to face any danger. Oh, no, what am I thinking? Ladies first? Rachel wondered why he was here. She turned and looked at the hills and what was in between. It all looked very normal, like a scene from the Yorkshire Dales. As she had walked straight to the hills as the crow flies, it would take them maybe 4 or 5 hours to reach that wisp of smoke. Brian had warned her that this was not what it looked like, and the phrase, not everything is as it seems, or something like that, rang through her mind. Only one way to find out what lay ahead, she thought, and with that, started walking again. Well, Robin walked reluctantly behind her after complaining about, well, everything really. Rachel found herself studying the world around her as she walked. The grass looked the same as grass, but much greener, much more nutritious. She found herself wondering how good it must taste, and she turned to Robin to say as much, but found him already on all fours, grazing like a horse. This is good grass, he said, and then stopped what he was doing. Why am I eating grass? He seemed a little bewildered. Rachel laughed. I think we have become a little bit unicorn. Robin stood up. Okay. Bit weird. Let's just move on, shall we? You never saw me doing that, by the way. All right? Rachel laughed again. Okay, she said, and started walking again. She had not gone more than 5 meters when she heard a loud squelch. Help me! Robin screamed as he looked down at the half of his leg. The other half was in the mouth of the biggest slug or something that he'd ever seen. Rachel, help me! He had thought it was a rock and he'd gone to stand on it, but as he put his foot on it, it sank up to his knee. Rachel came running to find Robin trying to pull his leg out of what indeed was, at first glance, seemed like a large rock. She immediately noticed the slight shine it had and a sort of tentacles gripping into the ground. She had seen something like this before. What was it? She thought hard and quick. It looked like an upside down sea anemone. It's got me! I'm going to die of being eaten by a slug! Help me! Rachel looked at Robin with a look of some contempt. Hold still, she looked with the tentacles, reaching into the ground, and thought, well, if it reacts like an actual anemone, and then tickled one of its feet with her hands. Immediately, the tentacles withdrew into the body of the rock, and Robin's legs shot out of the top, spinning him backwards. His trousers were covered in a green slime that smelled acrid and salty all at the same time. After Robin's leg came out, a large round ball of something green and slimy shot out of it. I think you had your foot in its bottom. What? No! Oh! He wiped his hand down, trying to clean it. The ball of green gunk slime came down on Robin's head with a resounding splat. Ow! Oh, yuck! This is disgusting! Ugh! It's horrible! Yuck, yuck, yuck! The green slime stuck to his hand as he wiped. You took your time, I could have been eaten there. He grabbed handfuls of grass and continued trying to wipe the sticky gunge off himself. Rachel was annoyed again. Not by its bottom, you couldn't. And I just saved you. Oh, never mind. We have a long way to go across the meadows, and I don't think it will be a gentle stroll. Try not to put your foot up or down anything else's bottom, will you? And that, I think, is where we will leave it for tonight. Okay, we're up to chapter 6, so making good progress. Nearly halfway through the book, crying out loud. Okay, things get a bit rocky from here, though. A bit overexciting, who can tell. Have a lovely evening. Keep safe. Keep washing your hands. Washing your hands is really important. Probably more important than anything else you're being told right now. And I can tell you that because I'm an ex-nurse, and I'm going back into nursing because my own little business has stopped for a little while, which is fine. And so I'm going back into the caring services. So we'll see how that goes over the next few weeks. Have a lovely evening. Catch you later.